Hey, what's going on? My name is Bim, and I haven't done a controller review in a while, so bear with me. But today we're going to be looking at the QRD Spark N5. It is a PlayStation 4 controller natively detected as a DualShock 4 on the PlayStation and on platforms like Steam, and the PS5 can be used on the PS5 with PS4 games. It has back paddles, macro function, and turbo. And it's got like nice LED lights too. All right, let's get to it. All right, full disclosure, this was sent to me by the company that produces the QRD Spark N5 for review. This is a review copy or review unit of the controller. That being said, I kind of hope that this packaging is only for the review units, because as far as packaging goes, it's kind of bare, yeah? Kind of sparse with the details. Got some stuff here: wireless connection, touchpad, long service life. Actually, yes, the battery life is pretty impressive, not gonna lie. Ergonomic, multiple vibration functions. And in front here, you got the QRD. I think this is the company name. Spark N5 is the controller. Wireless controller for PS4, PS3, PC, iOS, and Android. Here are the its main features, right? So Hall effect, joystick, gyro, because it is technically a DualShock 4, which has a gyro. LED light, you know, gotta get them RGBs, and then turbo and macro functions. So inside, you've got instructions. This is a very informative booklet. It tells you how to set your turbo, tells you how to set your macros, things like that. You've got these two little rings just to protect your Hall sensor sticks, and then underneath here you've got USB-C. Actually, you know what? The DualShock 4 controller with USB-C input for your cord is actually already kind of a game changer. That's actually pretty good. And you've got this thing for your mobile devices. It actually stretches out pretty wide, so you could put in some pretty big phones in there, and it snaps in place here, and it's pretty fit. It's a tight fit, pretty snug. Yeah, so if you want to get your mobile gaming on, this is also an option for you. And here it is out of the box. And in terms of comfort, I can tell you right now, it reminds me a heck of a lot of the Xbox One, Xbox Series X controllers. The shape and the feel in the hands reminds me more of the Xbox than the DualShock 4. It also kind of has the same round, sharp edges, aggressive edges as the DualSense. So it's kind of like in between a DualSense and an Xbox One controller in terms of the feel. The plastic used, the materials used, gotta be honest, it doesn't feel as premium as a DualShock 4, which I guess is understandable because they're trying to keep costs down. You have to be able to sell at a lower price point than a DualShock 4 to be viable, yeah? In terms of the button placement and alignment, so as you can see, it is symmetrical like a DualShock 4, like a DualSense, so not asymmetrical like the Xbox One. The bumpers, or L1 and R1, they're very loud, very clicky. Clicky, clicky, clicky. You could feel it, you could hear them. Yeah, very clicky. And then the triggers have actually a lot of travel. There's a lot of travel here. And you can be very, you can have very minute increments. So great for driving games. There's quite a bit of travel. Compared to the DualShock 4, or not DualShock 4, sorry, DualSense, where there's a little bit less travel. And we've got the 8-bit Do Pro 2. Actually, the 8-bit Do Pro 2 has even less travel than either of those controllers. One thing I did notice with this controller, specifically this model, this unit, I mean not the model, and it could be different for other units, is that the left trigger, the L2, kind of catches. There's plastic here that probably catches it, which doesn't give it a very smooth glide. Like you have to put in a little bit more effort just to press it down because it catches on something, unlike the R2 where it's so super smooth. You can actually hear it, the effort I'm putting in. Yeah, so this is probably just this unit, right? So I don't know if it's across the board. It's probably not, most likely not. The D-pad. So the D-pad, as you can see, is one solid piece. But, so you know me that I don't really like one solid piece D-pads outside of the plastic shell, right? So that's why I prefer the DualShock 4 DualSense, especially when I'm playing fighting games. But surprisingly, this thing can pull off electrics, man. I find it a lot easier to do electrics on this thing than on the DualShock 4, which is interesting. The face buttons themselves, they look, I didn't do a measurement, maybe I should have brought out like a tape measure or something. So the DualShock 4 buttons have a measurement of 1 cm. It's not its radius, its diameter. Yeah, 1 cm. This feels like a little smaller than that, and they are a lot more rounded than the DualShock 4 or the DualSense. Yeah, it reminds me a lot more of the Xbox controllers with you know, they're all concave. They're more concave. They're a little bit more rounded up top. Not my favorite, but it works. It works. The select and start buttons are very clicky and very noisy. You can hear them, which is good, I guess, so you don't press them accidentally. Home button, easy to press. It's right here. Or not home button. This is the home button. Oops. This is the touchpad button, I guess. L3, R3 are there. They feel good. Back pedals. Back pedals are clicky and easy to press. And the good thing is, during normal use, during normal play, sometimes if you're not used to it and you flick your fingers this way, it does catch. But for the most part, it doesn't get in the way of regular use. So a lot like the DualShock 4, when you're trying to connect it to something, you press the home and the share button at the same time for a number of seconds, like probably three or 4 seconds. And it will flash rapidly like this, like a 1-2 kind of flash. That means it's looking for a new connection. When it's connected to Steam via the Bluetooth connection, it is detected as a DualShock 4, which means you can change the color of the light. So you can change it to whatever. I like purple. We'll keep it at purple. And you can change the saturation, so you can make it very white, dark purple, brightness. You know, turn it off by turning the brightness way down. Yeah. Also, by pressing the set button, there's a set button back here. You press the set button a number of seconds, I think. Yeah. Then this kind of flashing, breathing effect pops up in front of the sticks and the buttons, which I personally don't like. I feel like it's a little distracting. And you press once to change the color, I think. Yeah, you just cycle through the colors rather. Press the set button again for a number of seconds to just turn it off, which is what I prefer. So the light, right? So the light isn't the same shape as a DualShock 4 light. So this light actually on the DualShock 4 exists for tracking. So that's why it's the shape that it is for the DualShock 4. And I think the DualSense as well. No, just the DualShock 4. So DualShock 4 is shaped a specific way. I don't have a DualShock 4 here. I'd have to go to a different room to get one, but like it is shaped a certain way for tracking with the PlayStation camera. I don't have a PlayStation camera to test this with, but I'm guessing it won't work just because of the shape, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I didn't test it, but you know. Okay, let's talk about the sticks. So the sticks are actually one of the biggest selling points of this controller because they are Hall effect sensors. All right, so I don't know how a Hall effect sensors work exactly. All I know is that it is based on a magnetic field. Therefore, there is no copper wire that gets rubbed down as you move the sticks. So it, in theory, should last way longer. You won't get drift. So the way you can test for drift is you go to a website called gamepad-tester.com, and there are these values that represent the position of your analog sticks. So axis 0, axis 1, axis 2, and axis 3, which is the X and Y axis for the left and right sticks. And if you see that the numbers, without touching your sticks, are moving, that's the beginning of drift. If it's moving a lot, then you have drift. And circularity, which is the error, right? The error, the average error for when you spin your sticks in a circle. So how perfect a circle you can get with your sticks. With the QRD Spark N5, I only get an average error of 0.7%. On every other controller that I've owned, I get, even the DualShock 4s, I get the old ones, yes, an error of like 8 to 9%. So there will be no game that will require you to make a perfect circle, but if you did, the DualShock 4 will give you about 9% error, and this will only give you less than 1% error. In terms of accuracy, so I played a few shooters with this controller, and I would say that the accuracy is about on par with a DualShock 4, which is good. Okay, so let's talk about the more spicy settings and features this thing has. So there's gyro. All DualShock 4 controllers have gyro, so for this to be considered one, it will have like gyro aiming. Turbo. So there are two turbo modes. One is just like full auto. So you press this is the turbo button, you press turbo, and you press the button you want to turn into turbo. I don't know if you have to hold it. Oh, you don't. Yeah, and this will just turn it into like full auto, and then you press it again, it will pulse. It will fire off the button every few seconds continuously. You don't even have to press it anymore. Macros. Okay. Contentious topic. Macros. So the other controller that features macros quite prominently is the 8BitDo Pro 2 and the 8BitDo Ultimate something. With the Pro 2, you go to you download software, you connect to the software, and you input the macro. So you can make it, this button, and then wait a fraction of a second, and this button and this button and this direction together. That's how you do a macro for an electric. With this thing, there's no software support. You press set and the paddle for like a couple seconds, and it'll start blinking slowly. Then you do whatever, and then you press it again to set it, and it's a recording of your inputs. The neutral or the delays in between your recording or your inputs when you were recording is also taken into consideration, but it is not frame perfect. So if you do an electric and you record it and you press your paddle, you don't always get an electric. You get, a God fist. You get, or sometimes you even get a down forward too. So it isn't frame perfect. It's not going to work 100% of the time, every time, if you need it frame perfect. It will work for things that you don't need really fast input on, but the inputs are difficult, sort of like Geese's pretzel command. You could do that. So it'll work in like one press of the paddle. Giant swing, you could do that. Like Zangief 720s, yeah, you could do that. But it's not frame perfect. It's inconsistent if you need it frame perfect. So there's that. But macros. The one advantage of this thing over the Pro 2, so this doesn't, it can, I guess, work on a PlayStation, but you'd need to use some kind of dongle, some kind of workaround, right? This will natively work on a PlayStation. So PlayStation controller works natively with macros. So there's that. So who is this controller for? So for one thing, the PlayStation 4's life cycle has all but ended. I think some are still being produced. Like it took a number of years within the PlayStation 4's life cycle for the PS3 to get completely discontinued, right? So there's going to be a few more. Wait, hold on. Has the PS4 been discontinued? Let's search. So apparently, like, PlayStation 4s are still being created. There are still games coming out for the PlayStation 4, but it is at the end of its life cycle. If you're a PlayStation 5 owner, you can use this thing on a PlayStation 5 using PlayStation 4 games. 100% viable. But you have a DualSense, and those will work too. So this is very likely for the person who has a PlayStation 4, plays on PC, and needs either turbo or macros or both. It's technically cheaper than a DualShock 4. It is pricier than an 8BitDo Pro 2 or an 8BitDo Ultimate, though. It's $50 at their website. It's 48 something bucks on their website, so a little pricey compared to 8BitDo. But if you need something that works natively on the PlayStation 4 with macros, then you've got this thing. So if you fit that criteria, this thing's for you. You might want to give it a look. QRDcontroller.com, QRDgame.com. It's QRDgame.com. Check out their website. I do not get commissions if you buy it, so don't worry about that. So there you have it. Another controller review with the books. So if you found this review helpful in any way, I would appreciate a like, a subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me the dumbest thing I said in this video. I'm pretty sure I said a lot of dumb things. All right, thank you guys very much. I'll catch you guys in the next one.